Well, I mean, Tuesday nights are not my life.
Are we?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yes.
We are live.
Can I test your sound?
Yes, but I do want, oh my gosh, Tuesday nights. Back up, Cam, back up. I do want to remind you that comments come late.
Yes. So we get comments after. Yeah, we're getting good sound.
What's happening here?
Sounds good.
No, watch. What's that?
I don't know. I'm distrust.
Okay, this is not my good side. This is my better side. But
Huh.
can we go head on?
It's flashing.
Yeah, I don't think it's going well.
Let's see what it looks like on this. Hey, folks.
This.
Oh, it's.
That's the boom.
Okay.
Hey, Benet. Zoe Maya, she's on.
Oh, we got some folks joining. I'll be right back.
Hey. Can you tell? We're getting this like fun. Did he really? Did you? We're getting a little bit of the like a flashy thing on the live. Does what's happening from your end? So before we get started, we're having like a funny flashy thing happen on the live video. It looks like it's something from a horror movie. It's like, you know, it's very spooky.
Probably because you started it and you just have really bad juju.
When it comes to anything technological, it's because I was from the heart, not the computer.
Uh-huh.
Why does it seem like we're in like a fashion show? Oh my god, that's
Audio is
so
good.
spooky.
What about the video, Zoe? What about the video?
Audio's good. That's good. Is the video going?
Is the video flashing?
Okay. I think she'd say it. All right.
We'll just make it happen.
It's 8 p.m.
Hey!
Everybody,
Welcome to
No, I have a new song.
Okay, yeah, sing.
Well, this podcast is on fire. That's not the one.
That's
Can I tell you a big secret? Oh, thank you. Okay, video's fine from their end. Can I tell you all a big secret? When I close my eyes, I see a game that I've been playing on my phone that I just downloaded maybe 2 weeks ago, and that I have decided to delete forever today. In my mind, just then when I was singing, I saw 3 purple things and a 4th one that needed to go up to make the thing like a Tetris. That's pretty bad.
Oh, there we go.
You
so
have
much
nothing to
better with
say?
the mic. No, I was concerned about my mic. I mean, that's pretty terrible that you feel that way. I'm also wondering, you're like front and center in this thing, and I feel like I'm coming in from the side here on the video. I'm just kind of like over here in the corner. This is kind of how it is in the bed in the evening, except like,
tell people about how it is in the bed. Come on in. Come on in, everybody.
Come on in. Creaky creak. This chair is the creakiest in the world. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Okay, to the Reading
Aloud
Podcast.
Cast.
All right, let's
Welcome to
get
the Reading Aloud
started.
Podcast.
Hold on. Can I answer this call?
No, don't answer it.
But he's calling about this.
Okay. Well, welcome, special call-in guest, Marisol's dad.
Hello. He hung up. Okay. Not sure, Dad. If you're having difficulty, text me.
I promise, y'all, we're gaining folks and we're losing folks. I promise we will get started soon.
Let me just say one thing about that. We're not on anybody else's time. The only person I care about on this feed right now is Zoe Maya Jones.
Really? You don't care about our fans watching?
Okay,
I mean, I love you,
can
Zoe,
see,
too,
I can see how that sounds really rude. But here's the thing: is that I'm personally working on, and I think that this is part of our content. I'm personally working on not jumping when other people say jump. So it's a little harder when it comes to like your best friends in the world to not jump when they say jump. Like you know they're there and you want to be there for them. But I can work on that too. I mean, I haven't heard anything from them in a minute, so I don't know if there's really an issue because my dad did call. So give us a thumbs up if everything's all right. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is threefold. One is we got a really great question at the end of last week that came in after we had stopped the recording, and it was, what are you all doing to address anxiety and uncertainty right now? You want to answer that? Because I have an answer, but I've been dominating quite a bit.
Wait.
Are you kidding?
Go for it.
So we got a great question at the end of last week, which was, what are you all doing to address anxiety and uncertainty during these times?
I want to hear your answer.
Okay, because I've been dominating so far, but we just started recording because we have
I'm settling in.
Okay, I do want to say that nobody's answering the question of like all good. So I just want to make sure it's all good because this has a.
So if you're watching and you're realizing what we're doing, we're just really trying to figure out if the video is working, if you can hear us, if you can see us, because we are getting some weird video flashing on our end.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah,
so,
we're getting thumbs up. We just got a like. We're getting likes. It's all good.
Okay. Cool. All right. So.
So how are we dealing with anxiety?
Okay. So what honestly, had I answered this question last week, it would be very different from this week. So last Tuesday, I don't think I was feeling much anxiety, and I don't necessarily think that. I have felt much anxiety since the get-go. So I would have answered in a way that would have maybe applied to other experiences in my life where I felt uncertainty and anxiety, which has been huge, I think, as a business owner, but it also has been, I just released the blog today about my brief cancer journey, and that was uncertainty and anxiety for sure. And I would have spoken to that, but I will say that this week or last week I took a huge dip, and I heard that collectively from folks that things have just gotten difficult, and that makes sense. We're starting into week 8 of the quarantine for most people, if not 9 or more, depending on what country you're in. And there's something that happened. We all have our different responses. So if you think of it pretty basically from a fight, flight, or freeze response, no matter if you've frozen or you've run away or you've been fighting, you've been operating from a place, like a primitive place of reaction from your primitive brain. And mine was to fight, in the sense that I just worked really hard to problem solve everything I could think of, and the adrenaline is worn off, and so the anxiety did set in last week, and the uncertainty and the fogginess. And I think for me, if I were considering my work from a perspective, or my life from the perspective of I'm going to sprint and recover, then I would have taken a vacation this week. But it is hard to imagine taking a vacation when money is tighter and you don't have anywhere to go necessarily, other than to go camping, which we should do more of. And so, I hit this wall, and I think that anxiety, it's like back to basics. I have to go 101 every time I have anxiety and uncertainty. It's like, can I pray about it? Can I be in meditation? What can I accept today? Acceptance is the answer to all my problems. Can I talk it out with a friend, like reason it out with somebody who's not going through the same thing at exactly the same time in exactly the same way? And today I laid on the kitchen floor and I let tears roll down the side of my eyes. That's how I dealt with anxiety and uncertainty. I like leaned in and I sought hopefulness. You had anxiety and uncertainty in the first few weeks. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that question from last time.
I like it when you wear your shortest shorts on the video. Hold on, can you pull them up just a little bit?
Nope.
Come on.
Nope. I like that.
I love how you take me so seriously every time, and you're like, how quickly can we get back to the topic at hand? I feel like everybody.
So this is what I want to say is that it's harder for me in this when it's harder for me like because I get on a roll with this, like I get in a flow, and so I want to like it's harder for me when you just asked me a question and then I started to answer it, and I was you've been talking a lot, and then as soon as I kind of started answering it, like my shorts got playing with, which then kind of distracts me. So that's hard for me.
Yeah.
That's hard for me. It's hard for me to like pivot and recover because I'm building up to like answering and getting in a thing, and then you know.
And I'm working on mindfulness and listening skills.
Yeah. And if I don't know, maybe would you like it if I did that to you?
100%.
Okay.
You have no idea.
Like
have you never watched me and my friends talk? It's like we're talking, oh my gosh, let me see that. Oh, and this and that. I mean, it's like 8 conversations at once easily. And maybe not all of them like it, but a lot of them do that with me kind of, yeah.
What were we talking about?
How did you deal with anxiety and uncertainty in your first week?
I think in my first week, how did I deal with it?
Well, when you experienced anxiety and uncertainty, which was kind of right off the bat.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, for me, I think that one way, I think the short answer is I just made it through, and there's another side to it. I feel like in some of these things, we're constantly trying to find the answer, and sometimes the answer is just to be with it. And you mentioned leaning into it, and it's like, how did I make it through? I'm here. And I always knew that I would be here existing in another week within the context of what that is. And so, that's not to undersell the powerful, anxiety that we can experience in a time like this in the moment, but it's also a call for perspective and a call for something greater by understanding that like this is what's happening and there's an embrace of that, which we've talked about.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. So you went at it like, I'm just going to make it through because I've always made it through, and I'll make it through the same way that I plan to always make it through. And for me, I leaned into things. I sought hopefulness, and I prayed for really an opening, like the release of the anxiety, or an opening to a new way or a new path. This is an interesting topic because, so first of all, to be clear, there are such things as suicide, right? And that is when somebody is led to a point and is so depleted that they have nothing left to live for, and they can't seek hopefulness. They can't see the other side, and maybe the other side doesn't exist for them,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really important to just acknowledge that there isn't always a seeming other side, and that there is something to when things are so, we've experienced it in our fertility journey, so chronically consistent that it is not, there isn't another side except for, maybe soon there will be another side. But, these kind of extended periods of time really wear people down. And I just think that that's important to acknowledge that, I'm grateful that you knew that there was another side coming soon. I'm really grateful for that. And that's not for everybody.
For sure. And I think part of like one thing that came up for me while you were talking is part of, yes, there is another side, but there is also a way of trying to um, improve your experience in the now. So you're going to get through it, but like, how can you excel? How can you flourish? Which I think is kind of getting into our topic for the day, but how can you excel? How can you flourish in your current state? And that state, can be a variety of things. It could be happiness. Excuse me. It could be happiness. It could be suffering. It could be anxiety. It could be fear. So how do you exist within that? And I think there's different ways to exist within those things. And, we were listening to a talk just before this, and the individual was talking about how a lot of these things like confusion and suffering get a really bad rap in our society. And anybody who is tapping into their creative self is going to experience these emotions.
Well, he even was saying, like, if you are not in a place of total comfort, then you are essentially taking some sort of risk. And risk in the biology equates to fear, and fear of safety or security is inevitably going to lead to confusion and discomfort. So he was like, if you are living at the edge of anything, and he was speaking about, like, from a creative perspective, if you're living on the edge of creativity, then you should be confused most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, pushing, right. That's just, if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not,
right,
on the edge of that, which is about a relationship too. And we as a whole, like during this kind of global event, we're all in that space in one way or another, because we're all pushing outside what our levels of comfort are. And so it's kind of crazy I haven't actually thought about this before, but it's like a crazy thought to think about. We're all actually pushing ourselves. We're all on our growth edge in one way or another right now, all simultaneously. And that's a pretty incredible collective consciousness there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's awesome. It's terrible, and it's awesome. So I don't want to just diminish it, but yes. Hey y'all. Hey Najib. Hey Ellen and Sharon and Judy.
Can we throw a shout out real quick before we get into all the people who've been watching? So I just want to throw a shout out. We've had several people reach out to us and just talk about their experience of watching these lives. We are on episode 5, which is pretty amazing. And so thank you all for watching these. And our listener Rita told me that they were watching with all their roommates, and that our conversation spurred like another hours of conversation after. That is the point of this. Again, we are not experts on these topics. We just want to carry conversations that breed further conversation out into the world. So thank you to all of you who are watching. We hope it inspires conversation. And you had a story too.
Yeah, they said they paused it so much that it took 2 hours to watch it, because it just like kept bringing it, which I love.
Yeah.
I just had somebody say, I was doing a check-in at a board meeting, and somebody on the board said that one of their highs was that they'd had a really tough week, and one of their highs was this reading aloud in the Love in
the Time of Corona.
Thank you. Love in the Time of Corona series was getting them through this time in quarantine. So that is, those are the things that, we do this for fun. Right now we do it for fun and for free for the most part, although you can purchase, if you go, I wonder where the best place to get it, but you can purchase, definitely the link is on my Instagram at Soul Reflection, SOL Reflection. In the link tree on my bio, you can purchase. It's a lot of steps, so apologize for that.
We'll also post it on the Facebook page.
Cool. Yeah, you can post or purchase the live recording. When we were in this whole year, we've supposed to have been on tour, and we were in LA, and that was about as far as we got in February on Valentine's Day. And so you can purchase the live recording. It's $10. Every little bit helps, because this takes takes some production dollars and definitely some time. So we really appreciate you taking the time to support us in that way and watch us go live. It was a really prophetic, in a way, topic to happen right before coronavirus. So.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So what was the other thing that we were going to talk about? We were
going to talk about we were going to talk about essentially like excelling and you know how we were just going to kind of talk about, like, I think, like, personal growth and excelling in ourselves, being geniuses in ourselves and our relationship. And I think kind of like what things do we put into practice, and how do we interact with, like, growing as a couple, and what kind of things how do we approach that work? That's actually what I want to get into. Like, I think we could give some tips, because people have always asked that of us. But I also think, like, you mentioned something today on our walk. I'll just start here. You mentioned something today on our walk.
Walking or running?
I forget. I think we were running. You mentioned something today.
I just need everybody to know that I'm currently running.
I think we were done with the run and we were walking
back. But that we had been running.
She ran for 25 minutes today. It was awesome. But you mentioned something like there's one step of acknowledging it. There's another step of dreaming about it or something. And then you kind of go, and then you're like, and then there's an actual step of taking action on it and turning it into something. And so I think we're just kind of exploring that, like, how do we implement growth areas within our relationship?
Well, and I think the important piece of this is, how do we implement growth areas in our relationship when I'm a doer and I do before I even think fully, and then you take a more measured, thoughtful approach. And I think that that's what makes us a really great team. And how then, sometimes it's as simple as, you'll do it my way or I'll do it your way. But I think that there's this really great balance that we can find that would be super interesting to kind of get to the bottom of, because I hear something, I'm inspired. So we heard something, we listened to a podcast together, we were super inspired, and I'm like, boom, let's do the thing. And you've been working on just like jumping on the train with me and going and trusting. And I've been working on
all aboard.
That's right. Toot, toot.
Be careful trying to jump on Marisol's train, because she's like one of those speed bullet trains.
Those European.
Like, London to Paris in 30 minutes. Yeah.
Negative 30 minutes.
It's called a time travel machine, I think. But
you gain life. And so, anyways, I also want to make sure we do get some time for comments. But anyways, so, we are, and then you, on the other hand, take a more measured approach where you might actually just take time to be with it. And that's a practice that I also cherish, which is, if you don't know, do nothing, or don't just do something, sit there. I really value that practice, because so much, like, if I take action before thinking or giving space for something, the richness is lost, as well as I often get in the way of God's divine plan. So I really appreciate that measured approach. I have found, though, that I have a sense of urgency that's come up. So we have, again, we're in week 8 of quarantine, and we're sitting here going, okay, what are the things that we want to do with our time? And I hit the ground running. You took some time to think about it. And now we really do have an opportunity, again, without kids, without all the distractions, without all the socialization, to actually do some other things. And they're financial goals that we have, and they're some, like, personal, spiritual growth goals that we have.
Right.
And so what is going to be the balance at the end of the day?
Well,
we have all the time in the world.
I think the balance is the balance. I mean, I think that I was talking about this today earlier with someone, and I was talking about my kind of like a need to settle with something before I kind of go about it. And they were like, well, what's the problem with that? And I was like, well, it keeps people waiting, because where I'm in this kind of contemplative state, or whatever we want to call it. They're in a waiting period. And so I think that, like, when we think about, okay, what are the goals that we want to accomplish? What's the financial goals that we want to accomplish during this time? What's the personal growth goals? What's my productivity at work? What's my happiness growth? What are all these things? How do I want to become a great influential person? My best self. How do we want to become my best self? Part of it is jumping into action and just doing it. The other part is sitting back. But in either of those scenarios, I feel like what we need to have in our relationship is somewhat of you need clarity on where you're going. You need clarity. And so, for example, if I step back and I say, give me a minute, I need to clearly communicate that I'm taking a minute to reflect. Right? Because if we don't communicate to ourselves and to each other that, like, oh, we have this goal of waking up earlier and doing a meditation, right? That's maybe the goal that we have. Then if we say, all right, yeah, let's do that. And maybe we're taking a step back and think about it, but we need to be clear about, like, okay, we're going to take a step back and then, like, let's settle on it for a night. Let's sleep on it and then have another discussion about it.
So some of the things one of the things that we decided we're going to start doing is to wake up around 5 a.m., right? And it's kind of shake up. So right now,
we're going to join the 5 a.m.
So right now we wake up around 6 to 6:20. We lull around in bed for 10 minutes and then we start journaling. But we're considering moving that up and starting with movement first. Okay, so that's a pretty actionable step to take. And then we're pretty sure that we're going to give it a try and see what the outcomes are. When it comes to some of our financial goals, it's a little bit of a different situation where instead we're looking at this long-term gain that we've been looking at for a long time. And we just have waffled in how we're going to approach it, because part of us believes we should be living every moment to the fullest, taking rest, which takes resources.
Putting ourselves in places where we can invite and welcome more resources coming in.
Right, like networking and connections, going to the fancy restaurant, meeting people, etc. And then the other part of us is like, what if we got really restrictive and made some other kinds of financial gains? And we tried that once and it backfired.
Is the thing, like, just commit to a way? Like, don't go back and forth? Do you feel like we've done that?
Well, I actually think that you're onto something there. So what if we committed to a different way, that it was neither of those things? It wasn't. It wasn't a commitment to rice and beans, and it wasn't a commitment to curate or whatever fancy restaurant we want to be going to all the time. So it wasn't a commitment in either one of those directions, but it was a different kind of commitment, which I think we started doing, but then freaking coronavirus, and it's not changed too much, but it's changed enough. But a different kind of commitment where we take like a larger chunk, and so if we want to go to curate, we'd have to,
or a nice restaurant.
Right. So then we'd have to make a different shift. Like the budget is set as such, as if these are budgeting 101s, but I think for us it's a matter of, like, I think we have waffled because
we're defining the path.
We've waffled because we're pretty extreme. We're like, we're all in or we're all in.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, like, how do you think that we work together to kind of, like, figure out that path? Like, do you see us working well together in that, or do you see, like, conflict arising?
I don't see direct conflict, like overt conflict, but I do see a conflict of interest of, like, I think we were talking about the 5 a.m. wake up on our walk or run today. And I was like, yeah, there's this, like, I think the financial stuff came up and I'm like, well, we just haven't committed all the way to it. Because we also both believe, but I think it's to our convenience, that there's a divine path that will open up before us and that there's a natural way. So, I'm a little worried with the 5 a.m. wake up that that's not my biorhythm. I mean, I just think it's not. I think
it's probably not currently, but I think the point is, right?
I
like
think
that's getting back to the beginning
Yeah,
of
but
seeing the bigger picture.
No, because we used to wake up earlier, like in the 5 something, and we've done that before, and then we
But
would
not
walk.
with this intention.
Well, we would walk and we would go to bar class. There were lots of things that we would do, and I was like, wow, I'm up, like feeling great, but I crashed at like 11, and I found that I was more tired
11
throughout the
a.m.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And was more tired throughout the day, and I got really clear over time that was not the right rhythm for me. 6:30 is much better. It works.
Yeah, I think that the point on that, and the point on that example for me though is like that there wasn't a like, yes, we were doing that, but it wasn't like every day with a intentional commitment around it.
I know, but
right? But
but babe, to assume that a woman or any human, but definitely a woman, is the same woman every day is really ignoring the natural biorhythms. Like if I'm on my period, I'm not going to wake up at 5 a.m. Like it's just my body won't sustain, and that would just be confusing. Like there's a real intuitive sense, and of course this was direction from a man. That was his method. And the woman that he was talking to was like, I did it while I was writing my book. And I've kind of kept up that practice. And I only really know one woman who does that consistently.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's something that I need your perspective on, and I need to implement. I think
But then therein lies the balance. So do I commit to on the weeks when I'm on my cycle? Is that the choice? Because that gets really.
Is that the growth edge?
Well, that gets known. Yeah, I'm saying if we honor that week, I'm going to take things in a different direction and sleep in. It's like, but then it's like the day before, the day after, and the thing, and that's where it becomes sort of like, oh, I'm just going to follow my bliss, and then here we are back at our 6:30 a.m. wake up.
Right.
Not moving.
Right.
Like there is something. This is the balance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I at least around this, like, there is. So one of the points that I want to make is that I think that one of the things that I've been trying to think about in my job a lot is, and I say it a lot, is like do less better, and in the sense that you can't don't do a handful of things in mediocrity. Do 1 or 2 things great. And one example, like a perspective about this is, when you plan on going out with a bunch of friends.
Yes.
And you kind of create these plans, and you're like, we're going to go to this coffee shop, and then we're going to swing over and go to this bar, and then we're going to go here and here. It never works out. The night that you plan to do like 4 or 5 things in the night, in my opinion, you never make it to all the places. You get stuck somewhere, you get sidetracked, and that's fine, but like it's just a reminder that like just pick one place and go there and then see where it goes. And what I mean by that is that in these growth areas in our relationship, I think what we struggle with sometimes is we focus on so many different things, and we forget to kind of focus on one area or one practice that then becomes a pattern.
So that's what quarantine has been for us. It's been a real time of focusing, and I have this inventory of my life up because I wanted to scale it back, and it's slimmer than even that. But that's where I'm at, is focus.
I appreciate that. I mean, I guess I do feel like we have yet to commit to a couple things. Like we do a morning ceremony, and we have committed to that, and we have kept it up. And it is now a part of our routine. Like if something else changes, the morning ceremony won't, because it's ingrained in who we are as a couple. Every morning we get up and write and do readings and be together and pray together every morning. And if we don't do that, we miss it. And so what I'm saying is that like, let's if we're going to do let's decide on the most like impactful thing for us at this moment and commit to that. Don't try to do anything else. Don't try to like tinker with other things, do a bunch of stuff. like if we're going to do the 5 a.m. thing and wake up, let's not also try to like go on a cleanse at the same time. And I understand the like physical difficulty with that. But like, let's not also commit to do another practice or also commit to, do something else. Like, let's do that.
I feel slightly lost and offended.
Okay.
Because I don't.
Tell me more.
Well, I don't think that we're overdoing it.
I guess I'm just looking for, and I hear that. I guess I'm just looking for a reason. We kind of made the statement that we're trying to find the balance, and we've put out a bunch of visions out there about growth, but we haven't been able to like nail it.
But that's the thing, is there are buckets. So financial is one that will never go away. Spiritual is one that will never go away. Right. And I'm not willing to have a financial goal and not have a spiritual goal. And it's not even that a goal, because the spiritual goal is a sustaining of this practice. But that's what I don't agree with you on, is that this is a whole body, mind, spirit transformation. And that's what quarantine has been for us in many ways, and I have hit a rough patch, and now I'm turning back to 101. I'm turning back to the basics, and I'm saying, okay, what are my spiritual goals? And I don't want to overdo it. But I think you can set a financial goal at the same time that you set a spiritual goal of waking up at 5 a.m. I don't think that that's a problem. And if you want to space it out, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Can we ask it? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I agree. When different things are in different buckets, you can move forward goals simultaneously.
You have to. That's what being an adult is.
Yes. I'm not like saying, don't multitask. I guess I'm just trying to make the point that that I don't think we as a couple have done a good enough job diving in deep for a long enough time on one thing. Because I think we do it for a little while and then we kind of move away from it. And
give me an example.
I would say, let's say we used to do morning walks. And
we were approached by a large bear lots of times.
Well,
that was a little bit of a hindrance for me. And then it gets cold. Like, I'm not going to take a 5 a.m. walk in the cold. So, like, to me, that was a natural shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear that. I guess it came from me in trying to figure out, like what the blocks were. And where I'm at is sticking to something over a long period of time is going to be, you're going to have difficulties, and, another thing, like you brought it up, like we've had a lot of goals with the financial stuff, but we haven't been able to really nail it. And, one of our clarity of recent was just do this smaller thing and work with that, get that really good, get that ingrained.
Okay, can we use that one as an example? Because that to me felt like we were looking, this chair is twisting and I don't like it. We were looking and looking and looking, and we were trying, and we were pushing, and we were we were listening to the financial podcast. We were doing everything that we could think of, and we were frustrated because we were there's no end in sight. We're never going to meet the goals that we want to meet. And then, along came an opportunity to read a book, and that just came to us as an opportunity. We read it, at me begrudgingly, because I thought it was a weird book. And
it was a weird book.
Yeah, and then things shifted dramatically. We made some small changes. We've had some big outcomes. So, that to me was divine timing. It came to you when it should come to you. And I have loved living my life through the lens of divine timing, not pushing, taking steps, doing the footwork, doing the next right thing, but not pushing for outcomes prematurely. And yet I feel as though there is an opportunity for us, and I felt this, I say this often, since I turned 30, I just feel different, that things don't come quite as easily. Things do come in divine time, but not like there's more work it's something's different, and I could talk about that more, but I'm not going to during this podcast. And that we actually have to make, and because we're two people working together, not one, so it's two energies that we have to put together. We have to do something different, and that something is to commit. Yeah, it's not working anymore to just like be in the flow.
Right. Yeah, totally.
I'm not saying you're disagreeing. I'm just saying, what is that?
Well, I think that there's a, what I'm trying to paint a picture of is like a scaling out of things. And we thought about this as we're talking about finances. Like we talked about this in terms of finances, like you can make immediate changes, but with a lot of financial goals, it's over an extended period of time. Like you're not going to meet your income goals next month. You're not going to meet don't want at 30 what your parents have at 65. Like work for that, consistently build over time. And I think it's the same thing in like our relationship and with ourselves in personal growth. Like we're not going to automatically be the divine geniuses that we know we can be, but we can consistently take steps. And my point is like each step, focus on that step. Don't think about 2 or 3 steps ahead. Focus on that step and nail it.
Yeah, but with a plan.
Yeah, of course,
Can
with
I
a plan, with a vision.
Can I just say that everybody likes you on this podcast? People are like, I love what Adam's saying, and I wish that he could get a little bit more airtime. And I think, cool, the patriarchy. Seriously, people are like, oh my God, he's so like woke.
Oh.
And it gets that you, what, is that offensive?
No, I don't.
Well,
yeah.
What?
You know me, I have trouble accepting like, praise a little bit.
Well,
sorry. I immediately
I
as soon as you say that, I like my internal like kicks it.
Well, I thought you were offended. I was saying like, people are really impressed by you, and I'm like, y'all, step it up. Everybody should step it up. You shouldn't be the exception. People shouldn't gawk and gaze and glow over you. And I shouldn't be annoying because I'm doing more of the talking. I mean, it's just the most classic
I'm sorry.
narrative.
I'm sorry that's the case. Y'all, Marisol needs some love. She needs some love. And let me just say about this one right here.
I don't actually like words of affirmation. You can just keep massaging my hand.
Her love language is touch, so I'm going to keep massaging her hand.
Quality time.
But on one side or another, she is 100% my inspiration with all this. And I don't think any of the growth that we've been able to achieve as a couple would be possible without the drive, the creativity, the intuition, and the vision of this one right here. So she is amazing and has so much to offer the world.
And then you just show up, and that's enough. I'm kidding. That is rude and not true. Actually, it's reminding me of a dream that I had last night.
What dream?
Hard to remember. But also, you don't just show up. You do a lot more than that. I just want to be 100% clear. Last call, and we will be patient this time. We will not hangs up on you. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, and I'd actually like to hear what are some tips for committing to growth that you and your partner employ? You could do the things that you do, but also like how do you actually put those into action? Which I think is what we were talking about today, essentially. Like how do you put those
I'm curious about partners, but I care the same if you're single. I just want to know what it is that you're doing to commit. Are you just leaning in and letting it be divine, or are you actually like, do you set a 2-month goal, 4-month, 10-year? Like, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
What's like your secret sauce? Or are you floundering?
A couple things that we do, just as we're waiting for comments to come in, but a couple things that we do is we do some serious intention setting at the beginning of every year. And if we're good about it, we actually review that from the previous year.
Until we set that intention that we'd have a house and a baby that one year, and it didn't happen. And then
neither happened.
And then I ripped the whole thing up. in my.
You did.
No, but I don't know where it is.
I think it's ripped up.
No, I didn't. No, I did not. I haven't seen it. I'd be curious to see it because I wonder if we're meeting any of those goals now. Actually, it might have been a 2-year goal.
Well, yeah. So that's definitely one thing that we do.
Is that I'm a fish, I'm floundering?
I'm
a flounder.
And as an example, it could come true. Another thing that we did was with the money stuff. That's something that really helped with our friend Sam. Put it forward was, we did vision boards. We just wrote out our kind of like financial goals onto a place, and we put them, up in the office. So,
which is also similar to our intention setting. And when the suggestion to do the vision boards came up, I was like, oh gosh, another disappointment. Just to be right in my face. But I don't know that we had put them in the beginning of the year intentions up visually. They just kind of sat out for a little bit, nor did we put them feng shui in the right part of our house.
That's right.
And so this actually, they're like coming true by the minute.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible.
It's awesome.
Although coronavirus is trying to take my business down right now.
What are some other things that
I'm going to keep talking about that.
Keep talking about it. Share where you're at.
Because I'm pissed.
Why are you pissed? Tell us about
coronavirus, that people are afraid and that people are suffering and struggling, and that my work feels discretionary and not essential. And it's an opportunity to transform your life and to transform yourself from the inside out. And that, when people receive the work that I have and the services that I have to give, they're literally different people. And I think it's on the one hand, capitalism does not support anything that's related to personal growth. It's like we come last always. Like the fact that we even have to remind ourselves to self-care in any capacity is a problem of capitalism. And then, the other thing is that I hate to see people suffering so much that that they're having to make decisions between essentials and food and things like that, and things that really will expand their life for the better. Like that, it's like in my therapy practice, I work with a lot of people who are really looking to take the next step in life. They're not coming up from the ground up. They've got their feet under them, and they're like, what else is happening that is in the way of this next step? And it's like, I want to support the people who are making change in this world. And I just like the people that are my clients and the people who come to me with inquiry, I freaking love them. I have instant love for them because I'm like, you need to be out in the world. You need to be doing amazing work. And you need to not only look good when you do it, but you need to feel good. And when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you can do good. And we need people who can just like fashion and personal style is a baseline for everything that you're doing. And it is like, let it be the foundation, but let it not distract you. Like have that taken care of so you can go out in the world and do amazing things. And people hide because they're afraid of how they look. They hide, they can't go out. They say no to invitations. They're not sure. They're uncomfortable. They're adjusting their clothes. It's such a mess. And I really just want to support people. Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really powerful to be able to like both release and to speak your truth and do it in front of the world. That takes a lot of guts to be able to do that. So
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, other than Zoe being a flounder at this point.
I think that's what she's saying.
Also, she's like the most beautiful fish in the ocean. So,
So true.
We love you all. Thanks for tuning in to episode 5. If you are watching this, post about ways that you achieve personal growth in your relationship or ways that you lay out pathways to that in the comments. Remember, this episode will go live on the Reading Aloud website. That's readingaloud.libsyn.com, or on any of your podcast apps. You'll be able to download it, rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, Reading Aloud Podcast, and share it with your friends. and keep the conversation going. We love y'all.
Thanks.
Bye.